In a small village near Mbano, Ogechi sat on the rough floor of her tiny hut. Her eyes were filled with unshed tears. Life had been unbearably hard for her since her husband Obinna fell ill. What started as a simple fever had become something far worse. Every day, she watched him weaken while the local herbs did nothing to help. The hospital bills were piling up, and Ogechi, who once sold gari at Nkwo market, had run out of money. Her 3 children, barely understanding the gravity of the situation, looked up to her with hunger in their eyes. One evening, after another failed attempt to gather enough money to buy Obinna's medication, Ogechi sank to her knees in front of their small altar. The candlelight flickered, casting long shadows on the cracked walls. Her hands trembled as she clutched her rosary. "Nna Anyị, my father, I do not know what else to do," she cried out, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am tired, I am broken. Please, God, help us." Days passed and nothing changed. Obinna's condition worsened. The children had stopped going to school because there wasn't enough money for their fees. Ogechi felt like a failure. She felt like God had deserted her. She felt like friends had abandoned her. People from the village tried to help, but it was never enough. She thought God had abandoned her. One stormy night, as the rain beat mercilessly on the leaking roof, Ogechi sat beside Obinna, holding his weak hands. His breathing was shallow, his skin cold. "I am sorry, Obim," she whispered, with tears streaming down her face. Suddenly, a knock echoed on their door. Startled, Ogechi wiped her eyes and opened it to find Nnaji, her childhood friend. Nnaji was known to have moved to the city years ago and has become quite successful. He held an umbrella, his eyes soft with concern. "Ogechi, I heard about Obinna's condition," he said, stepping inside. "I was passing through the village and felt something telling me to stop by. How is he?" Unable to speak, Ogechi simply shook her head, too overwhelmed to explain. Nnaji looked at Obinna's frail body and back at Ogechi. Without another word, he reached into his coat pocket and handed her an envelope. "This should cover his treatment and everything else you need." Shocked, Ogechi opened it to find more money than she had ever seen in her life. Her knees buckled and she fell to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Why did you come? Why now?" Nnaji smiled gently. "I don't know, Ogechi. I just felt like I had to come today. Maybe it's God's way of answering your prayers." That very night, with Nnaji's help, Obinna was rushed to the hospital in Owerri. The doctors were able to stabilize him, and after weeks of treatment, he began to recover. Slowly but surely, the family's life turned around. Ogechi, now filled with hope, understood that God had never left her. Even in the silence, He had been working behind the scenes, preparing her miracle. And from there on, she knew God's timing was always perfect.